Page 127. A very large group of people is standing in the middle of the road, barring the way into paradise. Puritan asks, "What are these sinners doing here?" And the moralist bawls, "The prostitute wants to join the feast." The guardian of social values yells, "How can the adulteress be forgiven when she has sinned?" The penitent rends his clothing. "Why cure a blind man if all he cares about is his illness when he doesn't even say thank you?" The ascetic protests, "You let that woman pour expensive oil on your hair. Why didn't she sell it instead of to buy food?" Smiling, Jesus holds the door open, and the warrior of the light goes in, despite the hysterical shouting. 128. The opponent is wise. Whenever he can, he makes use of the easiest and most effective of his weapons, gossip. It doesn't take much effort to use it because others do the work for him. A few misdirected words can destroy months of dedication, years spent in search of harmony and happiness. The warrior of the light is often the victim of this trick. He does not know where the blow came from and cannot prove that the gossip is false. Gossip does not allow him the right to defend himself. It condemns without a trial. When this happens, he puts up with the consequences and the undeserved punishment, for as he well knows, words are powerful. But he suffers in silence and never uses the same weapon to hit back at his opponent. The warrior of the light is not a coward. Page 129. "You can give a fool 1,000 intellects, but the only one he will want is yours," says an Arabic proverb. When the warrior of the light starts planting his garden, he notices that his neighbor is there, spying. He likes to give advice on when to sow actions, when to fertilize thoughts, and water conquests. The warrior listens to what his neighbor is saying. He will end up creating something that is not his. The garden he is tending will be his neighbor's idea. But a true warrior of the light knows that every garden has its own mysteries, which only the patient hand of the gardener can unravel. That is why he prefers to concentrate on the sun, the rain, and the seasons. He knows that the fool who gives advice about someone else's garden is not tending his own plants. Page 130. In order to fight, you must keep your eyes open and have faithful companions by your side. It might happen that someone who was fighting alongside the warrior of the light suddenly becomes his opponent instead. The warrior's first reaction is hatred, but he knows that a blind combatant is lost in the middle of battle. And so he tries to see the good things that his former ally did during the time in which they lived side by side. He tries to understand what led to the sudden change of attitude, what wounds he had accumulated in his soul. He tries to discover what made one of them abandon their dialogue. No one is entirely good or evil. That is what the warrior thinks when he sees that he has no opponent. Page 131. A warrior knows that the ends do not justify the means. Because there are no ends, there are only means. Life carries him from unknown to unknown. Each moment is filled with this thrilling mystery. The warrior does not know where he came from, nor where he is going. But he is not here by chance, and he is overjoyed by surprises and excited by landscapes that he has never seen before. He often feels afraid, but that is normal in a warrior. Fear is what justifies bravery. If he thinks only of the goal, he will not be able to pay attention to the signs along the way. If he concentrates only on one question, he will miss the answers that are there beside him. That is why the warrior submits. Page 132. The warrior knows about the waterfall effect. He has often seen someone mistreating another person who lacks the courage to respond. Then, out of cowardice and resentment, that person vents his anger on someone weaker than himself, who takes it out on someone else. In a veritable torrent of misery, no one knows the consequences of his own cruelty. That is why the warrior is careful in his use of the sword and only accepts an opponent who is worthy of him. In moments of rage, he punches a rock and bruises his hands. The hand will heal eventually, but the child who had beaten because his father lost the battle will bear the marks for the rest of his life. Page 133. When the order to move on comes, the warrior looks at all the friends he has made during the time that he followed the path. He taught some to hear the bells of a drowned temple. He told others stories around the fire. His heart is sad, but he knows that his sword is sacred and that he must obey the orders of the one to whom he offered up his struggle. Then the warrior thanks his traveling companions with gratitude, takes a deep breath and continues on, laden with memories of an unforgettable journey. Epilogue. It was dark by the time she finished speaking. The two of them sat watching the moon rising. Many of the things you told me contradict each other, he said. She got up. Goodbye, she said. You knew that the bells at the bottom of the sea were not just a legend, but you could only hear them when you realized that the wind, the seagulls, and the sound of the palm fronds were all part of the pealing of the bells. In just the same way, the warrior of the light knows that everything around him, his victories, his defeats, his enthusiasm, and his despondency, form part of his good fight. He will know which strategy to use when he needs it. A warrior does not try to be coherent. He has learned to live with his contradictions. Who are you? The man asked. But the woman was already moving off, walking across the waves towards the rising moon. Paulo Coelho.